Good evening, ghouls and fiends, and welcome to episode 4 of the Ministry of Horror. Now, if you're watching this live, you'll notice that next to me, there is no one. It's a solo stream, solo show this evening. If you followed the socials, you'll have seen that we were going to be doing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of retrospective review analysis with Reanimator, awesome streamer from Canada. Due to scheduling, we were going to be recording the show on Saturday to then kind of play during this show this evening. But due to unforeseen circumstances, we've had to delay that. So that is still coming. We will still be recording that and playing that on a Tuesday show. Hopefully next week, potentially the week after. We'll have to see how things go. But yeah, the show with Ra is coming soon. So let's start off by talking a bit about just generally the shows on the MOS network. Obviously, we had Sunday's show, the Ministry of Slam, and yesterday they did a special live interview stream with a particular guy who is buff and has the stuff, and that is Buff Bagwell, Marcus Bagwell. Check that out on the streams. I think it's on the podcast stream, but it's definitely on the Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Really good interview they did with the guy, and they took questions from the MOS network that were live. So I was able to get some questions in, and yeah, he was a really cool guest, really good interview, and seemed very open, and really good show, well worth checking out. Also, speaking of MOS network, tomorrow, Andy on the Retro Chat at 8 p.m, I believe, has the creator of the cartoon series Mask on, and Mask is one of those shows that I remember fairly fondly from my childhood, but I haven't really ever had opportunity to revisit it. And what I have found with listening to Andy's shows over the last few weeks is it really gets you that urge to rewatch it or to watch it for a first time. So definitely check that out. Okay, we've talked up about the MOS network. Let's go on to some news. So, if anyone's seen recently, the Sci-Fi Channel did a television series of Chucky. Chucky started off in the Child's Play films, Child's Play 1 to 3, then moved on to Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, which I will probably just say now is an acquired taste. I did not like Seed of Chucky at all. I couldn't really signify what it was that I didn't like about it. I think it's because it always had some quite campy humor, but they really dialed it up to 11, and I don't really remember much horror in that. It really wasn't much of a horror film. From memory, it could be one that I revisit at some point and go, you know what, actually it's not half bad. So that is the news coming on in regards to Chucky, is it has been confirmed to be getting a season 2. The first season I did think was pretty darn good. It had some staples of the horror genre in it with Devon Sawyer of Idle Hands and Final Destination fame. He played quite a key role in that. Also, it didn't ignore the more recent, I guess, kind of straight to DVD films like Curse of Chucky and what was the other one called? Cult of Chucky. They're okay, but they star Brad Dourif's daughter, and they do follow on that storyline along with other larger scale storylines from the Chucky universe in season 1. So season 2 has been announced. That's some awesome news. In other news, so they're a big name in rock. I've never really liked them. So the Foo Fighters, Seed of Chucky. Fran the Cannon's just joined the chat. Seed of Chucky is the weakest film in the series. 100% agreed. 100% agreed. Whilst Cult of Chucky and Curse of Chucky, which I think I've got those the wrong way around, aren't brilliant. They do have more of a focus on horror, which is where the series started. Yeah, Seed of Chucky, not so much. But definitely, if you haven't seen the series, I'd say give it a watch. It's pretty good. It's got some gnarly kills in it. It's got some great effects. And it's awesome. But yeah, moving on. Studio 666, which is the Foo Fighters horror film that has recently been released. I've heard mixed things on it. I think it's going to be one of those films that maybe when it's on streaming, I'll give it a watch. But as I kind of said, Foo Fighters, huge name in rock. I've never really liked them massively. I think their first couple of albums were good, and then it kind of, for me, became a bit cookie cutter, I suppose is the term. But it's horror, so I'll probably give it a watch. And I think from memory, Dave Grohl, who seems to, well, he's obviously the star of it. He is Foo Fighters, kind of, the leader. He was pretty entertaining in Pick of the Destiny, so yeah, it's maybe worth a watch. That's been released recently, and that's already made 1.5 million at the box office, I think, in its opening weekend. Moving on to the latest entry in the Scream franchise, which I believe today, or if not yesterday, has now hit streaming. I've not seen it. I do love the Scream series. The first film is classic, and the second film was the first Scream film I ever saw. Is also really good. I don't really remember the third one being great, and the fourth one I remember being decent. I rewatched it again recently, and I don't know. I found that it meanders a bit. It's an improvement on the third, but it's not one of my favorites. But Scream 5, I am looking forward to. Yeah, that's neared 80 million in $80 million in box office revenue. So that's, I guess, as well in this current climate, that's a huge hit. So that's really good news. Hey Tezz, got you on the background to do a little work. Thanks, Crimson Mel. Nice to have you on the stream again. Always a pleasure. Going back to talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so a little bit of news for my week, and I have to be very conscious that this microphone and my old microphone are very directional, so I have a habit of moving my head around, and that's probably going to dip the sound around. So I'm going to try and make a conscious effort to keep my mouth talking in this direction. But speaking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with the show coming up soon with Reanimator, I got a new little addition for my shelf. It's not on the shelf at the moment. My weak ass lights are slowly going in front of my Pennywise NECA toy figurine, I suppose you could say it. But rewatching some of these Texas Chainsaw Massacre films ahead of the show with Reanimator, I saw this on Amazon, and I just thought it was incredible. So for people listening on podcast, this is I think it's distributed by SD. SD distrib. I can't read that. They've made this awesome, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Leatherface figurine. I love the artwork. It's got the original poster on the front, and when you open it up, you've not only got Leatherface. God, I can't figure out how to move up the camera. You've not only got Leatherface with two different heads, his weaponry, and of course the chainsaw, but you've also got the background of the room, the kind of, I suppose you want to call it the butcher's room, from the iconic scene, the first killer in the first film, the best film. But talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there was one of the films in the series, which I think for a lot of people, I never got around to watching, or if they had done, they probably forgot it, and for good reason. And that is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. I'll go into more detail when I record the show with Raw, but it stars very early appearances by Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. Yeah, pretty big names they turned out to be. And originally, when the film was made, it was shelved for a bit, for the year, I think. Matthew McConaughey's career skyrocketed, as did Renee Zellweger's, I believe, with Jerry Maguire. So then that was then used to get the film given it a proper release, using their names to kind of skyrocket it. My God, is it trash? It's oh, we'll talk about it more in the Texas Chainsaw show, but that is trash. I had delivered today the Blu-ray for Texas Chainsaw 3D, and I hated it the first time I saw it. It's got Alexandra Daddario in it, and she's an awesome actress and easy on the eye, shall we say. But it just had some bits in it that I thought were absolutely terrible. But I thought that with Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie film, when I first saw it, I hated it. I rewatched it a few years later. It's got some merit to it. It's not great by any means, but it's unique. So I'm hoping I have that experience watching Texas Chainsaw 3D again, and it's not as bad as it was the first time I saw it. So we're going to now look at some... Oh, really? It's airing on Horror Channel tonight. McConaughey was so over the top. Do you know what, Fran the Cannon? That is actually really irritating, because I spent, I think it was like $4.99 on Amazon to rent it, because I thought, all the purchases, if it's crap, I really don't want it in my collection. And it seemed to be, oh, hi, Meryl. Um, it seemed to be the only way to watch it. But the fact it's on the Horror Channel tonight, and I watch the Horror Channel quite regularly. And I was literally before coming on stream, I'd seen on Facebook it was saying that there's a new film or newish film being shown on the Horror Channel called The Young Cannibals, and I thought I'm gonna have to remember to set Sky to record that. Oh damn, Fran the Can! I really wish you hadn't told me that it's free to air on TV. I'm gonna really resent spending that £5 even more than I already am. We're now going to look at some reviews. I'm going to start off with a kind of a bit of a book promo, I guess. And when I say book, I'm going to kind of specify, just because some people are a bit funny about that. Graphic novel. About 2 months ago, I'd heard about a graphic novel series on the Kingcast, which is Kingcast is a Fangoria podcast. I can't remember the guy's names, the hosts, but they look at Stephen King films, adaptations of his books, or his books with celebrity guests. And they'd mentioned about a graphic novel series called Something is Killing the Children. I picked up book 1, or trade paperback, of issues 1 to 5, but a couple of months ago, and I recently ordered book 2 and 3. I've got book 3 here. I don't know where I've put book 2. I was going to put a graphic up on the stream, but it's kind of a late addition to the show. It's all right, Fran McCann, I will not hold it against you. I literally just wish that I'd left it till this week to watch that god-awful film. But I will say, Zellweger shows early on that she's got some serious chops as an actress. And McConaughey, excuse me, McConaughey is the highlight of the film because he is all in on that role. It's such a shame that it didn't have a better script. And it's also crazy that it was written and directed by one of the original writers of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Kim Henkel. And what they do with Leatherface in it is just ridiculous, and it's just the story makes no sense. It's just absolute nonsense. But McConaughey is good in it because he's got a robotic knee. He's got a robotic knee, remote controlled as well. You can't make this up. But yeah, this book series or graphic novel series, Something is Killing the Children. This is volume 3 I've got in my hand here. Just to give you kind of idea, it's kind of what the title says. There are these creatures that appear in the world, but only seemingly children can see them. Kind of like Pennywise in It. But they are vicious, and they are literally eating the children. A woman, Erica, I believe her name is, she arrives, and she's kind of a hunter of these creatures. And a boy is accused at the start of killing his friends because him and his friends went to the woods in a dare. They all got massacred. And this woman basically teams up with the lad reluctantly to find these monsters, hunt them down, and try and kill them. But the artwork is really unique. It's not like overtly detailed. It's kind of, I don't want to say avant-garde. I don't know the terminology to correctly kind of go into its style, but I mean the cover gives you an idea of kind of how the artwork is for the book. The monsters, they're all basically kind of shadow images, but it's a lot of shadows with a lot of blood and kind of gore. I definitely recommend giving it a try if you're inclined to read graphic novels, or if you like horror, which if you're here, I imagine you do. So let's have a look at some film reviews. I've got a couple that I was going to do a week or so back. But now seems like a good time as it's a solo show. We're going to start off with a Shudder double bill. Okay. I don't know which one to start with really. I think we'll start with the most recent one I watched, which was about 2 days ago. So there you go. There's the poster for a film called Hellbender. Now, initially I thought, what the hell's that title mean? I've never heard the term, but apparently it's a fairly common term in regards to witchcraft. I'll give you a kind of a general idea. You've got the film opens with a hanging, a witch hanging in. It might well say what year it is at the start of the film. Really can't remember. But in a time gone by, the witch doesn't die. She gets shot a number of times, and eventually I think she combusts and flies up into the air, still alive. We're in the current day, and it's the film is centered around a mother and daughter combination. There is It's basically in regards to witchcraft, and the title Hellbender comes from the witches who were accused of turning their back on God and heaven and bending down towards hell. And I think that was quite cool. I think that's quite a cool meaning behind the title. Well, I'm going to do my reviews kind of in a pros and cons way, and this is generally my opinion after watching the film. It's not definitive. This is great. This is bad. Just if the premise sounds like something you'd be interested in, give it a watch. I haven't really talked about too much about the synopsis other than the very opening of the film. Okay, we'll go into a little bit of a synopsis, then the pros and cons. This mother and daughter combo, they're very much quite isolated. They have a home out in the woods. I want to say maybe Virginia. I guess I'm not really very geographically sound, especially when it comes to American landscapes, but it's very much woodland areas, hills, all that stuff. They have their own kind of garage band where there's a lot of these little musical kind of interludes of them playing the daughter plays the drums and sings, the mother plays bass and sings. So it's got that kind of lo-fi garage band sort of sound, which I don't know if it works against it because it's the sort of thing that is quite niche and it worked well in some instances in regards to other films. I don't think it works as well here, but we'll get to that in the cons. The daughter is under the impression that she is sick. The mother is saying, "You can't go to town with me. You need to stay at home." But it's very much a mystery as to what's going on there. She has a chance meeting with a neighbor girl, and they kind of kick up a friendship. But an incident occurs, and the girl kind of has a bit of a dark moment and wonders what's wrong with her. And that's when the story starts to evolve and discusses this witchcraft element of the overall story. So the pros. This looks excellent. As in, it's shot so crisply. The landscapes. It's got some nice visual effects in it as well. There are certain scenes where you get glimpses of the horror of a witch under the surface, and also some moments of VFX in the air when certain powers are being used by the witches. Now, in regards to the cons of the film, as I mentioned, the little musical moments. There was a recent film a couple of years back called Uncle Peckerhead, and that is about a kind of garage rock band, who meet a roadie who wants to help them on their first ever little tour, very cheap tour. But he has he's the eponymous Uncle Peckerhead, and he is either a demon or is possessed by a demon. I can't really remember. Who eats people and just tears people apart in the evenings if he hasn't had certain medication, or so it seems. So it's a film with a lot of moments of bands playing, and it makes sense there. Here, I get what they were going for in terms of the relationship between the mother and the daughter, and that they're so in sync with each other, but it kind of felt like dragging the pace of the film out, dragging the runtime out a bit. Didn't really seem to massively benefit the overall story. And I think another con I'm going to have to say is the acting. Again, this is my opinion. I've heard some good things about the acting in this. This production is a family affair. It's written and directed by I've got his name written down here. John Adams and his wife Zelda Adams. Zelda Adams is the mother in the film. I think it was also written by their daughter Toby Poser, who is the daughter in the film. The friend that Toby's character makes is I thought I had her name written down here, but I don't. She is also her sister in real life, so it's a real family affair. Basically, the core actors they're all related, which is nice. But I don't watch films for the stuff behind the scenes. I couldn't care less about that. So there's moments of decent acting from both of them, but really the acting goes between poor to passable, in my opinion. I don't think it's great. It does have an interesting story. In the finale, the finale has its own pros and cons. I won't go into too much about it. It's got a nice kind of setup, but it kind of just seems a bit rushed. It's almost like the film wanted to have a slow burn approach, but didn't quite know how to get the difference between slow burn and dragging out. And talking about slow burn perfection is one of the main films we're going to be discussing later on. So for Hellbenders, I'm going to give this a score of 5.5 out of 10. It's not bad, not terrible, not by any means. I think they've done really well with what I imagine may have been quite a small budget. But I just didn't think the acting was great, and I think that they kind of dragged things out, and I think it was kind of boring at times. So that is Hellbender. See it if you wish. Don't take my words as gospel. Next up is a Shudder release I saw a couple of weeks back. Shudder can sometimes have some gems on there of original material. Not all the time, though. Not all the time. No production or distribution company is perfect. Hell, I know about distribution companies. God damn. That is the Shudder film Slapface. Now, I initially thought, what kind of flipping, I was going to swear then, what kind of flipping title is Slapface? I still don't think it's a very good title for a film. So Slapface is just got some weird message. I'll ignore that. Someone's clearly touting for business. So Slapface is the story of a young boy. It is written and directed by Jeremiah Kipp, and it stars August Maturo as Lucas. As a young boy, him and his older brother, Tom, played by Mike Manning, have lost their mother, and I believe maybe their father as well, because basically there's absent parents. And the way that they kind of deal with this grief is through this game of Slapface, which is basically you slap each other in the face. I don't really know how it's a game, but it's quite an abusive coping mechanism used to deal with this grief. And the boy, August Maturo's Lucas, so one of the central themes of this film is bullying, and the kind of damaging impact that bullying has on those involved and those around them. So it does have a really strong message there, and it even has some information at the end about bullying, and I think it might have contact. I can't remember. It might have some contact information about reaching out about bullying. So its message, I do think, is quite a strong one. So you've basically got he's being heavily bullied by. There's these local twins who are just bitches. They're just nasty, and this girl, which is kind of his secret girlfriend, but she goes along with the bullying because she's friends with these two girls, and it's that approach of, well, if I join in with the bullying, then they're not going to bully me, even though the bullying is making her friend, or boyfriend, quite upset because they are fucking horrible to him. He hears of a legend of a monster out in the woods, out in this kind of abandoned building. The monster that, if you're watching the live stream, you'll see in the poster artwork. Okay. The general thing is this thing his friend? He's made a friendship with this creepy. Straight off the bat, I know you can't judge things by appearance, but straight off the bat, you're like, don't know if I want to be your friend. But they strike up a friendship, but it's quite dangerous, as you can imagine. So pros. Again, this is shot excellent. It looks the colors, the tone that they've got it looks impeccable. The acting is decent. The kid who has to shoulder pretty much almost every scene, he does a good job. He doesn't knock it out of the park, but he is also a kid that's basically leading an entire feature film. So you've got to cut him some slack. And it raises the attention to the kind of the epidemic, as it is, of bullying and the impact that it has, which then kind of leads to the cons. So I thought the finale was kind of crap. It was one of those ambiguous finales that I believe is trying to hint at, was this all really happening? Which may be a little bit of a spoiler, but I won't go into detail of what happens and how we get there. But I hate those. I would much prefer to have we've gone full in on supernatural or whatever it is, and the vagueness there, I'm not a fan of. I'll talk about vagueness in the next little review. Um, and also there's some odd moments with the monster, the creature, whatever you want to call it, who's played by Lucas Hassel. I think he's just credited as the monster. Crimson Male, yeah, you want a definitive ending. This does not really give you a definitive ending. The next film doesn't give us a definitive ending, but it does it much better, which I'll get onto in a moment. There's some odd moments with the monster. There's a bit when the lead, I've forgotten his name, Lucas and the monster are chumming around, and I think it's like a bit of a montage scene where they're trashing up a place, but dancing around, and it's like, it's difficult to have scenes of a monster laughing around like that and then find it intimidating later on. It can work. You can have that where there's a bit of a flick of a switch and a creature goes from being happy-go-lucky to terrifying, and this doesn't do it well. There's also a bit of there's a bath scene which I just thought, what the hell are they trying to say here? What's the purpose of this scene? Because I was watching it with a friend of mine and we were both just like, okay, how long's this film got left? So I think Slapface is better than Hellbenders. Probably mainly because of the acting is a bit better and the general story that they're telling in regards to the impact on bullying, which, I think that's got to be applauded. Anything that highlights, kind of bullying and what assholes bullies are, is great. But the ending was crap. There's some good moments in it, but some of the things they do with the monster in the ending, not so great. So this is a 6 out of 10. Slapface, available on Shudder. I'm saying 6 out of 10. But that's just my opinion. Take it as you will. You may have seen the film. If you've seen the film, drop a comment in the chat or on the YouTube, whatever. Let me know what you think. If you agree with my score, if you disagree with my score, I'm happy to discuss. Now, last film review. Another film I saw a couple of weeks back that I was going to review, and I did discuss briefly on the show with Peter Goddard, looking at 70s horror. It's a film set in the 80s, and it's set around I guess you want to call it an epidemic. I don't want to keep using that term, of film censorship in the UK. That is Censor. This is a film that initially, when I'd gotten to the end of it, I wasn't sure if I liked or not. But then it had me asking questions, and questions in a good way, in terms of, okay, so I think I know what they're trying to say with the finale, but how much of that happened? What actually happened to what was the conclusion to the mystery? Good questions to ask, I think. Directed by Prano Bailey Bond, written by Bailey Bond and Anthony Fletcher. It's a powerhouse performance from the lead, Niam Algar as Enid Baines. And it's also got Michael Smiley, who is excellent. If you've ever seen Kill List, which is a brilliant British film, he is kind of the co-star of that. And also features Nicholas Burns. So a brief little talk about the synopsis for the film. After viewing a strangely familiar video nasty, Enid, a film censor, sets out to solve the past mystery of her sister's disappearance, embarking on a quest that dissolves the line between fiction and reality. And I think that perfectly sums up what the plot of the film is. It has this tone, in terms of the image quality, that really does feel like you're watching something from 1980s UK. It's talking about the hysteria of the kind of the video nasty era, where film censorship kind of went into overdrive. I mean, for many years, films like Cannibal Holocaust, Zombie Flesh Eaters, The Evil Dead, The Exorcist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they were banned in the UK. They were not available to purchase on home video or see in a proper chain cinema for decades. And the lead, Enid Baines, she has to watch a film that's been put up for reclassification. So it's been previously banned. They want to get a new rating on it, like a 18 in the UK or rated R in America. And as she's watching it, it seems to bring her back to a traumatic event of her youth, when at some point in the past, her sister went missing. Her parents believe that their daughter is dead. They basically want to just move on because so much time has passed. There's been no news. But there's little hints. There's little hints that something might have occurred to her. And Enid believes that one of the women in this film, which is getting a sequel shot, not a sequel Censor, but in film, a sequel shot fairly soon, she believes that actress is her sister, grown up. So her kind of crusade to ban certain films and to try and save her sister lead us down a trippy path. So pros. As I mentioned, it perfectly captures the tone of the era, the video nasties. It's got a tight screen time, which I guess if you wanted to look at as a con, I think they probably could have maybe. And I normally like a short film because I've got a short attention span. But I think they probably could have maybe given it another 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Because it doesn't feel rushed. But I think you could have explored a few things a little bit more. Maybe. But other than that, there's not really any cons for it. I think if you like a slow burn, I guess it's not really an out and out horror. It's not really an out and out thriller. It's a psychological horror, really, if you want to put that term on it. I would definitely say watch this. Give it a watch. In regards to availability, it's currently you can watch it on Prime, but through a Mubi channel subscription, MUBI. I didn't pay for that. I just got the free trial, watched the film, and then cancelled. I've got enough, WWE Network, Shudder. I've got Prime, Netflix. I've got enough subscriptions. I don't want to pay for any more. But I don't steal my entertainment. So that's one way to watch it, or you can purchase it, rent it through other services. But I give it an 8 out of 10. I think if you like psychological horror, give Censor a watch, 100%. Crap! I just realised I've got links for trailers to all of these films, and I'm gonna just drop them one after another into the chat now. So I mean, there's Hellbender. Here is Slapface, and here's the trailer for Censor. So feel free to give them a watch if they do look like your sort of thing. I'm not saying any of these films are particularly bad. Just I think out of the three, Censor is it's got a bit more money behind it than the other two, but it's been put to good use, and it's a nice story. It doesn't give you a definitive ending, Crimson Man, as we were chatting about earlier. I normally find that irritating, and I initially kind of found this one irritating, but the questions it made me ask, and if I watch a film, and then later on that evening I'm going on Wikipedia, I'm going on Google, searching for answers to that ending, or if there's anything kind of hidden that I missed, then it normally means that it's a film that is in my head and I've enjoyed it. So give that a watch if you will. Dusty Roads. Take off the score and the poster there. So now let's talk about what the show is titled. I'm iffy on ambiguous and up to the few endings. They have to be done really good. Okay, I fully agree with that, Crimson Mel. I think I'd say this one is 90 minutes. I think maybe slightly less. And it's not a completely ambiguous ending. It's the kind of ending where, and I'll be careful not to say any spoilers here. It's the kind of ending where if you're listening to what's going on, particularly a radio broadcast, it will give you an idea of what is really going on. And I'm being very, I'm being very ambiguous right now, and I apologise for that, Crimson Mel. But I do think that this does an ambiguous ending well, and I think it's not actually that ambiguous. Oh, the irony! I actually think it's not that ambiguous when you think about it. It doesn't give you the answers to what happened in regard to the mystery. But it's one of those great films where through the actions and through the characters' motivations, you can probably answer that yourself. Which again, I normally don't like, but I do think this was good. So the purpose for the main event, the main talking point of today's show, and I may do this fairly quick because I am kind of tempted to do the Netflix Escape the Undertaker New Day thing. We'll see how we're going for time. I mean, I'm already 40 minutes in. I didn't even realize I'd be that far in. I just like talking. The purpose for the show being focused on Ty West's film, which I thought was his debut. It's not actually his debut. I got that wrong. His film, The House of the Devil, is that he is returning to horror with his next release from A24, who seem to be really seem to be the kind of the go-to studio for, I guess you could call it art house horror, highbrow horror maybe. But he has a new film coming out called X, and I will put the trailer for this in the chat. Now, X, I'm excited to watch this. You've got a great cast. It really has that look and tone of something that was shot in the 70s. Like, really, like the location and the attires makes you kind of think almost Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Doesn't look like it's going to have that sort of tone, that grindhousey sort of tone, but it does look very authentic. And speaking about authentic, his film, The House of the Devil, which I should have where is it? There we go. A little slideshow of images from the film. When did this one come out? I prepared some notes for today's show, but it was a 2009 film, written, directed, and edited by Ty West, starring Jocelyn Donahue, she's been in a number of projects. Probably the most kind of semi-regular would be Parks and Recreation as a reporter. Mary Woronov, an early appearance by Greta Gerwig, who's gone on to do great things. I think she's become a director now. She's done some. Is that the same Greta Gerwig? Where's that? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Lady Bird, Little Women. Yeah, so she's really shot off in her career. And it also features Tom Noonan. Now, talking about horror, Tom Noonan, he played. Oh god damn! I've already forgotten. I've forgotten the character's name from one of my favorite two sets of films. Really, the prequel novel to Silence of the Lambs was Red Dragon, and that was originally adapted in the 80s as Manhunter, and he played. I'm just going to call him Red Dragon because I can't remember the character's name in it, but he's excellent in that. It's also got AJ Bowen and Dee Wallace. So, general plot summary of this film. It concerns a young. Oh, I am reading this off Wikipedia. The plot concerns a young college student who is hired as a babysitter at an isolated house and is soon caught up in bizarre and dangerous events as she fights for her life. This film, if you've not seen it, I can't even remember the circumstances I saw it. It may have just been it's on streaming services. Let's give it a watch. I love it. I think it's excellent. It has that authenticity where, I mean, as you can see up there, the opening titles with the I can't remember what you'd call it, but the line at the bottom, where it feels like this was made in the late 70s, early 80s. It's got that uniqueness to it. And it does slow burn really well. And I think this is really where he hit, I'm not going to say his peak because I've not seen a couple of his later films. I obviously have not seen his new film, X, which I mentioned is coming out very soon, I believe. Francis Dollarhide. Yes, Tooth Fairy. Was that one of the terms that he was also coined by the media? Oh, brilliant story. I do quite like Red Dragon the film as well. It got some slack, but I found it generally quite entertaining, and I loved series 3 of Hannibal that adapted the story. Like, it was so dark, so good, so good. Um, so the House of the Devil, it pays homage to horror films of the 70s and 80s. It recreates the style of films from that era. So, for example, a lot of the shots, there are moments where he'll do this kind of slow zoom in on characters, and that was something that after this period, not to go into like technical terminology too much, dolly shots were used. But he took this back to that to shots and framing from that time to really give it some authenticity. He followed this up with a film called The Innkeepers, which I've only seen the once, and I did enjoy it, but I thought it was dragged out. I thought he kind of really hit his hallmark in The House of the Devil in terms of slow burn done correctly, which is what I think Hellbender kind of tried to do, and it didn't. It's tough. It's a tough thing to achieve. There's slow burn and there's boring. And House of the Devil, I would just say, if you put it on, you think, oh god, this is a bit dull. Just pay attention. Just stick with it. Pay attention, because it really does build that tension up as it's slowly revealing the story. It's playing on an era of subgenre of horror that was really prevalent in the 80s, not just in film but in the media, of satanic panic. I love satanic type of films, and there's not really that many that are done well, and there's not that many in general. And this I just love this film so much. Let's have a look. So this was the production companies, and this was Constructo Vision, Ring the Jing Entertainment, Class I Picks. Now those first two, I don't think have really done much more. Class I Picks have done bits and bobs. It was done on a budget of 900,000 US dollars. Only made 101 at the box office. Now, I don't think this got a UK release, and if it did, it was incredibly limited. As I said, didn't hear anything about this. I just kind of happened to catch it on a streaming thing once. And it's also Lena Dunham, who people will know as from Game of Thrones, Judge Dredd, the recent film. I say recent; it's like 10 years old now. She plays a 911 operator in this. What more really can I say about this film? It was shot on 16mm to give it a really retro stylistic look that matched the decade. They used particular makeup effects like feathered hair, as you can see on Greta Gerwig. 1980s Sony Walkmans, particular songs of the era, and the Volvo 240 sedan. So they really made it authentic to that period of time. And looking at the reception to the film at the time, it's generally reviewed well, but when looking at self-proclaimed redneck film critic, I didn't know he called himself a self-proclaimed redneck film critic, Joe Bob Briggs praised the film as just a superb, slow burn, extremely well-crafted movie. If you have got Shudder, I highly recommend watching Joe Bob Briggs's drive-in or his different specials for the series. It just gives you a really good insight into these films, the production, their reception at the time, and sometimes has guests on, along with Darcy the Mail Girl. And I believe he has shown this film before on his drive-in. So if you have Shudder, should be on there. And I think the film is available as well on Prime and there as well. But yeah, some of the negative press at the time has been in regards to the pacing of the film. That it just took a bit too long to arrive at its destination. I mean, I disagree. I mean, it's a 90-minute film. A film like The Innkeepers, I think, was clocking closer to 2 hours, and it had a similar slow burn, but that took so much longer to get to what was really the crux of the film. So I think that this really hits the right mark in regards to slow burn. But it seemed to get a lot of nominations and some awards. So Fangoria Chainsaw Award. It was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Tom Noonan. He is incredible in the film, and the score from Jeff Grace. Screamfest Horror Film Festival. And 2009, it won for Best Actress for the lead Jocelyn Donahue. Best Musical Score as well, won. And the Birmingham Sidewalk Moving Picture Festival, I'm guessing that's Birmingham, Alabama, won Best Feature Film. Also some nominations at the Saturn Awards for Best DVD Release. And Independent Spirit Awards, it was nominated for the Producers Award for Larry Fessenden for I Sell the Dead, which I haven't seen, but I have heard of, and House of the Devil. So really, I mean, I kind of thought I'd talk longer about the House of the Devil, but there isn't that much more to say, really. If you like a slow burn, satanic horror, and calling it satanic does kind of give away some of the movements in the film. If you want to see an early roles for Jocelyn Donahue and Greta Gerwig, if you are interested in watching the new film X, then definitely watch The House of the Devil, as this is kind of where it started. And it's got it also uses this, and I guess in this era people are a bit smarter with the internet. They can just research things straight away. It did use a technique that was used by films of the 70s to try and sell films a little bit more than they already would, by saying in the opening text credits it claims that the film is based upon true events. It's not. It was a technique that was used in some films like The Amityville Horror and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as we will be talking about a lot more next week or the week after, did use the true events tagline, and it was right to a degree in regards to the Ed Gein story, the Ed Gein case where he killed a couple of people, but he was mainly digging up bodies and cutting off the skin and stuff. But the facets of the Ed Gein personality were kind of played out across the different members of the Sawyer household. Amityville Horror, there was the house on Amityville. I can't remember the correct drive location. Oh, Carrie is cool. That's my sister. She says howdy. Sorry, I haven't had the chat open because I've been looking at Wikipedia. The only Ty West film I've seen is Cabin Fever 2 and The Sacrament. Cabin Fever 2 I haven't seen. I've only actually ever seen out the Cabin Fever series, Frown the Can. I've only seen the first one. I believe Cabin Fever 2, Ty West has tried to have his name taken off of due to a lot of studio interference. Let me know if it is worth a watch, but I haven't seen it. The Sacrament, I didn't dislike it. I thought it was decent. I mean, it was quite clearly doing a found footage take on like the Jim Jones Jonestown sort of massacre type story, but with, like a bit of a surprise near the end. But definitely watch The House of the Devil. Blair Witch did that as well. Yeah, I mean, Blair Witch really capitalized on that with their marketing campaign. It was really, really quite ingenious. And again, if they tried to do that nowadays, it wouldn't quite work, just because anyone could go, oh, based on true events, right, Google. Oh, right, it's film and production written by these people. Right, it's not real then. So they really took advantage of that and did it such a high standard. I remember they even had some type of special on the Sci-Fi Channel. Was that in regards to Blair Witch? Because I think I remember seeing on the DVD, I rented the DVD from Blockbusters, and they had like a documentary where it was like visiting the town. So it really kind of added to that feel that this was something that was, that could actually have happened. Ocean Avenue in Amityville. I was going to say Ocean Avenue, but then I thought, is that not a Yellow Card song? I don't really like Yellow Card. That's the Amityville house. Yeah, Amityville. I'm going to try not be too dismissive. Not of the Amityville house, but the Amityville film franchise, purely because one of the films on my film company's release schedule is an Amityville film, which should be coming out in the next few months. Check vipcovaults.com for all the latest information, or Vipco on Facebook. Shameless plug on the MOS network. But the Amityville film franchise, goddamn, who knows how many films there are in that franchise? The first one is great, based on true events. And I think the story behind what actually happened or reportedly happened is far more interesting than any of the films have been able to convey. Although there was one, I think, called The Dollhouse, which is generally creepy. Someone gets like a ghost standing on their chest or something, like a paralysis sort of demon. They actually have the pressing down on the chest. They do that really well. Might have been Dollhouse, might have been the second one, I don't know. But yeah, Amityville as a franchise, Jesus Louises, that's really been that's one of those film franchises that I kind of consider similar to The Howling. Your first one's good, and then oh boy, oof, dragging that name through the mud. I guess it doesn't really cost much to maybe get the rights to use the name, because I've seen that there's films coming out. Not to badmouth the films, because I haven't seen them. I'm basing it purely on the title. Amityville Sasquatch, I think, is a film that's got the Amityville title in it, and maybe Amityville Bigfoot's one of the two. God, just some dodgy ones. Carrie is cool. I was listening to a podcast with a guy interviewing someone who was in prison with Ronnie DeFeo. Can't remember how it's spelled. Oh, that was the guy who, I can't remember the full details. He killed his parents, killed his family, and said the devil made him do it. But yeah, definitely give the House of the Devil by Ty West a watch. I highly recommend it. I will just say, as I mentioned earlier, it's a slow burn. Stick with it. Pay attention. It's only an hour and a half. It's not a slow burn that's 2 hours that can just really border on boring. Only an hour and a half. Now, we're at the 55-minute mark. And you know what? I think it was mentioned on Ministry of Slam a little while ago that we should do this. So I'm thinking, screw it. It's only half an hour. We're going to do a watch along of... No, actually, no, we're not, because we'll build this up on a show, and I'll maybe try and get the Ministry of Slam guys involved. But maybe on a future show, we will do a watch along. I can't stream it, unfortunately, on this show, but it would have to be a sync up and hit play now of the Netflix Escape the Undertaker with the New Day, which I guess is kind of horror. Carrie is cool, says, I struggle with slow burns. Yeah, maybe the House of the Devil isn't for you, but it's satanic. It's great. It's so good, so good. But you just have to know that it's a slow burn. Just know it's going to take a little while to get to, the things going wrong. Well, that really kind of wraps it up for this evening's show. It's just not my camera. That really wraps it up for this evening's show. So if all plans go to plan, this Saturday I will be recording with Reanimate Her, Raw. She is an awesome streamer from all the way in Canada, I believe. Does a lot of gaming, discussion, reviews, deep dives. And she has agreed to come on the show. We're going to pre-record it due to scheduling conflicts for streaming. Going to have a little interview with her, talk about her love of horror, her horror origin story. And we're also going to look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film franchise, which has got some brilliant films in it, and it has some not so brilliant films in it. But we're going to look at all of them, and we're going to see, kind of the production history, how it kind of falls as a general horror film, and where it really fits in the franchise in terms of good to bad. Other shows coming up, so we will be at some point doing, I'm not going to do it tonight, decided against it, a watch along of the Escape the Undertaker, the New Day. It's going to be interesting because it's a choose your own adventure type show, and it's kind of spooky. It's not really, it's kind of horror, but it's more spooky Undertaker. But it's entertaining. I think I have watched it through once, but there's a number of different ways that you can get through the story, get through the action, whatever you want to call it. And then in terms of future shows on the upcoming schedule, we're gonna have another kind of watch along type show, but it's going to be with Retro Chat Andy Evans. Now, Andy Evans has not seen the classic horror disturbing episode of The X-Files called Home from season 4. This has been mentioned a few times in the Discord, so just know that this is coming to the Ministry of Horror. What we're going to do is we're going to talk a bit about where The X-Files was at the time, just as a show, and I swear I just saw feet shadows under my office door, which is kind of creepy because I'm the only one here. So send some good juju out on the airwaves. We're going to be looking at The X-Files as a series, where it was, And then the kind of the history of this particular episode, why it's so iconic, notorious, why it was banned for a while on network TV. But it really kind of has that tone of I guess Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that kind of wrong turn, backwards, deep south type feel. I'm really sorry for that accent. And then also, no date set for this one yet, but it's on the schedule to come up. Good friend of mine, musician and actor Dean Jovey. He is a huge Crimson Mail. Wrong Turn freaked me right out. Do you know what? The first Wrong Turn still holds up, and it's still really good. And yet, it creeped me out the first time I saw it. It had that just these crazy hardcore mutant inbreds, I would just call them. Great kills, great sense of stalk and slash. I mean, particularly there's the scene when they're kind of climbing through the trees. Oh god, yeah, Wrong Turn's excellent. And do you know what? I saw the second one quite a while ago, and I thought it was a decent slasher horror film. I haven't seen any of the other 6 or so, and I don't really know what I thought about the latest one. I think I like that they were trying to do something different. At the same point, I kind of think, did you need to put the Wrong Turn title on it? I guess they kind of did, because they did technically take a wrong turn. But it's so far removed, I guess, really from what the first film is. It's a tough one. When they do a remake, you kind of think, make your own version of it. Don't do like a Gus Van Sant director, I think, Psycho remake where it's just shot for shot. It's pointless. But at the same point, I don't know, it has to hold some semblance or some DNA to the original. Anyway, we're completely sidetracked of Wrong Turn. But yeah, it's definitely, if you haven't seen the original Wrong Turn with Eliza Dushku, check it out. Brilliant film. I'm going to have my good friend Dean Jovey on. We are going to look at ranking. So it's going to be another tier list. Tier list is pretty fun. But we're going to be looking at both the Friday the 13th franchise and Halloween franchise to find out who, you can look at it as who is the ultimate on-screen slow-walking killer, Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, or which franchise has had the better film. I know what I think. Don't know what Dean thinks. I know, but he's an Uber fan of the franchises. So that's going to be interesting. And we're also, I'm planning on getting Necro Eric on the show from the MOS Network Army to look at Peter Cushing's his top 5 Peter Cushing films. I've not really seen that much Peter Cushing. The farthest that my kind of Hammer horror knowledge goes is Dracula, really, with Christopher Lee, which I think Peter Cushing. I think the films that I've seen haven't had Peter Cushing in, because there's been quite a lot of Dracula films. So it's going to be interesting for me to learn more about the films of Peter Cushing. And you know what? I'm going to throw it out there live, and he can hit me up in the Discord if he so wishes. But Crimson Mel, we need to have a chat, my friend. We need to have a chat and look at a concept for an episode. If you'd be interested in coming on one time or a few times, whatever. The dark side of the slam. It'd be good to have a collaboration with the Ministry of Horror. Hit me up in the Discord. But anyway, next week we're looking at fingers crossed, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the good, the bad, and the goddamn ugly of that franchise, with the awesome Reanimate Her. So, thank you very much for watching this evening's show, and if you're listening to this on the podcast feeds, thank you again. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow the MOS Network, follow the Ministry of Horror. We're on Twitter, Ministry_Horror. You can find us on Discord, Ministry-of-Horror. Facebook page, Ministry of Horror. I haven't done an Instagram yet, but I might do, because I've been posting things of the different bits and bobs that I've been buying and have been destroying my bank balance. But anyway, thank you again, and I'll catch you next week.